Alright, so with Trump ramping up his tariffs again, this could be a huge game changer for the global trade. A 25% tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada, plus an extra 10% on Chinese and European goods, all under the promise of putting America first. That's what the Trump administration is pushing for. But how will it actually play out is the question. Will this move strengthen the economy, or are American consumers about to take a hit with higher prices? Well, these weaponized tariffs that Trump has been mass spamming recently are definitely going to be hitting everything, from your groceries, cars, and yes, even the manufacturing sector as well. You name it. Businesses are going to play a huge role in how all of this plays out. Some might pass the costs on to us, the consumers, while others will scramble to cut expenses, which could mean job losses or major supply chain shifts. Now, Trump calls tariffs the greatest negotiating tool America has. But history tells us a different story. Past trade wars haven't exactly been a clear win. So, is this a power move that forces other countries to play by US rules? Or is it a gamble that could backfire, weakening American industries instead of strengthening them? Well, we're about to find out. But first, we need to take a look at how these tariffs are actually shifting the global trade in general, and what that really means for the US economy as a whole. Let's start off talking about Trump's tariff tactic game here. He isn't just doing it for nothing. It's about weakening trade deals and forcing other countries to play by his rules for America. So what's Trump's real strategy here? It's basically slapping as many tariffs on foreign goods, making them more expensive and pushing American companies to move production back home. Sounds really simple, right? But here's the catch. Countries like China, Canada, and Mexico aren't going to be rolling over as easy as Trump expected them to because of this. And I know recently both Mexico and Canada have so far avoided getting hit fully with the tariffs while negotiating with Trump, though that remains to be seen if they will follow through with it. Of course, there will be some countries hitting back with their own tariffs, with China planning to do so as well, by looking for ways to cut the US out of their trade networks altogether. If that does happen, America could end up isolating itself instead of gaining power in the global market. So, I think that the tariffs that Trump has recently enacted will bring some jobs back from overseas, as they're meant to strengthen America's domestic industry by discouraging companies from offshoring jobs to cheap labor producing countries. These tariffs, which will be enacted, will be placing more emphasis on making America the dominant global power in trade by taxing most, if not all, imported goods, which will make America the lead negotiator again for what the global market should be. So, with the weaponization of tariffs that has surprisingly worked so far for countries like Mexico, Canada, and surprisingly even Colombia, I guess it's safe to say that it's clearly an effective pressure tactic that is much more tolerable to the American people than, let's say, invading other countries. Now, with all that being said, China will be fine, as they, like Russia, had years to get ready for such a thing to happen to their economies. In fact, China is going to be using their own tariff tactics against America and its allies, which is not surprising to me, nor should it be for you. There is one thing that could put pressure on Trump's recent tariff tactic: the BRICS system. It's a counter global partnership founded by Russia, China, Brazil, South Africa, and India, just to create an alternative economic alliance outside of the US currency control. And if I'm being honest with you all, it's likely to grow, especially after Trump's rapid tariff spamming that we have seen recently. That's the only thing that I can see for now that can go around the tariff pressure tactic used by Trump. And that brings us to the bigger picture. This isn't just about trade deals, it's about America's place in the global economy. Because Trump is not just tweaking the policies. Oh no, he's basically rearranging the rules completely here. Because for decades, the US played the referee role in the global economy, setting up trade systems that didn't just benefit America, but its allies as well. Trump is ditching the approach. Instead of working with the system, he's making everything transactional. Every deal needs to directly benefit the United States, even if it upsets our long-standing allies. We are currently seeing how this is playing out. United States tariffs on China are pushing companies to move their supply chains. But instead of bringing jobs back to America, they're just shifting production to places like Vietnam and India. At the same time, Canada and Mexico are starting to look for trade routes that bypass the United States entirely. So, is this actually strengthening America's position, or is it just making other countries less dependent on the United States? Now, me personally, I would argue that it depends. Trump's weaponization of mass spamming of tariffs is basically a straight gamble for America's global trade position. He knows that the US dollar is still the number one currency for now, so he's causing as much chaos to stabilize the American economy, even if it means breaking past trade agreements. For example, when Trump scrapped the NAFTA and replaced it with the USMCA, there were improvements like stronger labor protections in Mexico, but much of the structure remained the same. On the flip side, pulling out of the TPP arguably weakened the US position in Asia, giving China more influence over the regional trade over there. This is why some countries no longer trust America to uphold its agreements, pushing them toward China and the BRICS organization. Now, I support bringing jobs back with the American First policy, but I think Trump is spamming tariffs like an end all be all weapon way too quickly, which is better instead of using sanctions or other strategies to get what America wants. Though some companies are still going to be bypassing those tariffs, no doubt, while others are slowly moving operations back to America, which is good. But if the economy heads into an actual depression, we shall see how this all plays out. And of course, as much as with all of you guys, I'm hoping for the best for all of us that live here in America, just to be clear. So let's just say, even if Trump's strategy is meant to put America first, what about actual American citizens? Are we actually going to be benefiting anything from these tariffs? Or are we the ones paying the price for these trade wars? Here's where things can get real. Tariffs might sound like a great power move, but let's be honest, they're just another form of tax. And guess what? That tax gets passed straight to the American consumer more so than what people think it is. So, yeah, Trump's argument here is that this short term pain is worth it in the long run because it's all about strengthening the US economy. But let's also be real here again. Companies aren't just eating the costs of these tariffs. They're raising the prices as well, cutting costs and or moving production somewhere even cheaper for again their own profits. So instead of American jobs coming back, we could just end up paying more for everyday essentials with no real economic gains. Hopefully not, but that is speculative. Now, I'll say this. As someone who is living in America, companies should, of course, bring the manufacturing and tech jobs back to America. Right now, prices are still going up or staying the same, and we should hopefully see them being lowered soon. And I say the word hopefully because it should, but it's ultimately up to the companies to decide if they can still. Of course, profit while doing so, as any business should in the capitalist society that we live in. However, here's the concerning part that I want to bring up with you all. With AI now coming into the picture, it's replacing your average American worker. Some companies may still offshore production to cut costs by cutting mundane positions that normally would be needed to those who need money to live and to support their families, which is why you're seeing more support in the tariff tactics that Trump has been doing for the past 2 weeks, with more optimism than his last term. And trust me on this, I do understand what Trump is going for, and we'll see if he can actually deliver on bringing jobs back. Hopefully, it's not just another short term political move like so many politicians in America and other countries have promised before, since after being elected, Trump's main goal is reviving American manufacturing jobs. Though, one of my concerns with the tariffs is that unfortunately, just slapping tariffs on countries like China or renegotiating trade deals won't cut it. Real investment in domestic production, workforce training, and infrastructure are all needed in order to allow Americans to have some level of upward mobility in terms of job earnings. Otherwise, companies would just move to other low cost countries and capitalize on the ever so growing AI apps, and the US will still rely on imports just from different places. So, to wrap up all of my thoughts on this, I think we're going to see these tariffs be sort of like a new game changer in terms of how the global trade will be centered and refocused back to America. Because if I'm being honest with you, and for those who actually understand what I'm about to say, America is basically the economic zone or country of the world as I'm currently speaking. Now, I know that might not make people happy, but that is realistically what it is. And if Trump can make some aspects of America better in terms of providing so many people job opportunities that, you go on YouTube right now, you can see so many people crying and complaining that they don't have jobs and or that the jobs do not meet their demand of what they need to live on, or AI just replacing them for not basically having above average skills, to put it lightly. So, this is where we are. Trump's tariffs are actually going to shake up the global economy. No excuses there. That's what it is. Now, I also want you guys to ask yourselves, is this actually putting America in a stronger position, or is it just making life harder for everyone? Please drop your thoughts in the comments because I'd be more than happy to engage with you guys. Have a great day.